Welcome to Lesson 1.2, the order of operations. Notice how this expression has a lot of operations in it. Subtract, divide, add, multiply. Can I just do this from left to right? Does it matter what operation I pick first? Could I pick my favorite operation, addition, and just start there? No, order does matter. In order for us all to get the same answer when we evaluate this, we have to follow the order of operations. This probably looks familiar to you. PEMDAS, maybe you've heard please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I happen to like please end my day at school. Ha ha, much better. But here we've got parentheses, exponent, multiply and divide, and add and subtract. Notice how multiply and divide are boxed up together here. Do you remember that there's a left to right rule when you're doing that? Same thing with add and subtract. We have a left to right rule also when we're doing adding and subtracting. This can get a little confusing. Let's see why. A very common mistake is for students to see multiply and divide and think that the M has to come before the D. And they think when they see this problem that they must multiply here because the M comes before the D in the word PEMDAS. Is that true? Do I actually multiply here first? No, I don't. I want to be sure that in my notes when I write PEMDAS that this comes left to right, just like you read a book. Also, in my notes, I want to do the same thing for add and subtract. Left to right. Again, just like I read a book, okay? So if that's the case, and I look at this problem and I see, okay, I don't see any parentheses, check that off, I don't see any exponents, now I go to multiply and divide, but left to right. So I'm going to move my finger left to right like I read a book, and I see, oop, divide comes first. So I would want to divide first here from left to right. So let's just give it a try. If I divide first, I would get 3. Now I'm going to bring down all the other numbers. Oh, that's, 4. Drop it down, everything gets dropped down. Now I can take a look again and see no parentheses, no exponents, right? So we got multiply and divide. So I did the divide, and now I'm going to look left to right, and here I see now multiply. There's 10. Now I'm going to bring everything down. Okay, next, add and subtract from left to right. Okay, just because the A comes first in the word PEMDAS doesn't mean I add first. I have to go left to right. So just like I read a book, I move my finger, stop here. 4 minus 3 is 1, plus 10, and now I get 11 for my final answer. Oops, you can't see that. There, now you can. There we are. So we're going to be looking at some examples where we are using order of operations to simplify an expression and evaluate. All right, I'm going to give you a second here just to write down problem number 1 in your notes, and this is what it is. You might remember from last year that you had written kind of a little PEMDAS off to the side, and then you were checking maybe the boxes for each step that you performed when you were evaluating or simplifying. So taking a look at this problem here, I see add, I see multiply, and right here in the middle, this is division. That fraction bar is to divide. Now, I don't see parentheses. I don't see any exponents. Next here, I see multiply and divide from left to right. Now, if I go left to right, I see that this division right here can be done first. I also want you to think of this as a fraction. Could it be simplified? Could I take this right here and rename it as something else? 16/4. 16 divided by 4. Absolutely. Let's rename that. We know that this is the same thing as 4. So now I'm just going to copy the rest of the problem. Now I'm not done with multiply and divide yet. Left to right, looks like this comes next. I multiply and get 8. Copying everything down, showing my work, done with multiply and divide. Now I'm ready for the last step. 5 plus 8 is 13. Showing all my work, and I'm done. Now what I've done here is I've taken this expression and I've simplified it all the way to 13. Okay? Let's try the next one. Go ahead and write down number 2. While you're writing it down, I'm going to get the little PEMDAS ready on the right-hand side here. Okay, Let's give it a try. Parentheses or grouping symbols, absolutely right here, and inside them there's an operation, tells us to subtract or find the difference. Let's do it. Now bring everything down. All right, did the grouping symbols. No exponent, check that off. Multiply and divide, left to right. So starting like I read from left to right. I see here I got division. 2, bring everything down, done with that. Add, subtract, ready to do that. And we get 12. See, isn't this fun? It's all coming back to you now. All right, in your notes, you go ahead and write down this next example. I got the PEMDAS. All right, let's give it a try. Parentheses. You might see parentheses here, but is there an operation inside of there? No, there's not. This parentheses is sitting next to the 6, signaling multiplication. So no operation to do in the parentheses. I don't have to do anything. Exponent, do we see any? Absolutely, right here. This says 2 to the 3rd power. Let's rename that. We know that 2 to the 3rd power means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. I'm going to copy everything down now. I've done one step. I bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. Exponent's done. Now multiply, divide from left to right. So I'm going to truck along left to right. I stop right here. Multiplication. 18, 3 groups of 6. Not quite done with multiply and divide. I see it again. See division. 18 divided by 3. You got it. Bring everything down. Done with that. Next we got add and subtract. 8 plus 6, 14. And we're done. We've taken this expression and we've simplified it all the way down to 14. We've used all of the operation symbols and we were able to simplify it down to one number. All right, let's get ready for the next example. You're copying it down as I'm making our PEMDAS check off. Lots of stuff going on here. Look at all these operation symbols and parentheses. It is crazy. Are you ready? Let's give it a try. All right, parentheses. Looks like we've got a couple groups of parentheses. Let's simplify this first part right here. Inside the parentheses, I see that there's an operation. So I'm going to evaluate this. 3 plus 3 is 6. Now there's an exponent, so I'm going to need to bring down the parentheses to separate the exponent. I guess I wouldn't have to do that. I could write it as 6 to the 2nd power like that. That works too. Let's bring down the plus. Now do you see that there's another set of parentheses, more grouping symbols? Inside the grouping symbols, I still need to follow the order of operations. And inside here, what would come first, divide or subtract? You're right, divide. So here I'd have 14 divided by 2 is 7, and then 8 minus 7 in the parentheses would give me the answer of 1. All right, parentheses done. Exponent time. Right here, 6 to the 2nd power. Remember that means 6 times 6, which is 36. And then I add the 1, giving me 37. Boom, boom, I'm done. I've taken this expression and simplified it. Here we go, we're almost there. Go ahead and copy down your next example right here. If this is helpful for you to have the little PEMDAS check off, you can always do that before you begin. All right, we've got parentheses first. And inside of our parentheses, we have some operation symbols. So inside here, I see exponent and add. What comes first? Exponent. So let's evaluate this. 3 to the 2nd power, that means 3 times 3. 9 plus 4. Am I done in the parentheses? No, I still need to add. 9 plus 4 is 13. I don't need the parentheses around it anymore because I've done everything in there, so I can leave off the parentheses. Okay, let's bring down the minus 24. Oh, 13 minus 24, that's going to be a negative number. Think if you have 13 degrees and the temperature drops 24. Holy buckets. Oh, I got to check off some of this stuff here. I did parentheses, and then there really wasn't any exponent multiply. I think I did everything. So 13 minus 24. So, you know, if you want to, you could use a calculator for that. 13 minus 24, maybe you could do it in your head. But here, 13 minus 24, negative 11 degrees it would be, negative 11. There we are. Oh my goodness, cold, brr. All right, next one. Go ahead and write it down in your notes. While you're doing that, I'll get our check off. All right. Now with this one, I see brackets. The reason why brackets are being used is because there's already parentheses, and they can't go parentheses with more parentheses, so we use bracket. So brackets, grouping symbols. It really is the same thing as parentheses, essentially. You're still going to do it first. So I got to do everything that's inside this bracket, all of this stuff right here. So if I'm going to do that first, I have multiplication. These two parentheses stuck together tells me to multiply, and I have subtraction, and I know that multiply comes before subtract. So 5 times 3 is 15, then take away 7 in my bracket. But again, brackets are just like grouping symbols or parentheses. So now I can do 15 minus 7, and that's 8. Okay, now I've done everything in my grouping symbols, no exponents. I'm going to bring down 24, bring down the divide. Now I'm ready for multiply and divide. Looks like I have 3, so I kind of got to skip that last step. And there we go, we got 3. But do you notice how I'm showing all my work? This really helps from me from making any mistakes. And if you really like the whole check off like you did last year in 6th grade, remember, you can always do that too. Big ideas we have to remember is multiply and divide are left to right, and so are add and subtract. All right, happy practicing.